Welcome to the Plan B CRNA podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Jones, and I'm so excited that you're here. The Plan B CRNA podcast is the only show made specifically for nurse anesthetists who are exploring options outside of their traditional career paths. This is the place to expand your mind and your goals as we uncover new ways to produce side income together. The mindset that we bring to any situation plays a key part in overcoming challenges and really enjoying our unique paths in life. On Thoughtful Thursdays, I like to explore emotional topics that are relevant to CRNAs and other providers. I think of this as my therapy, and I hope you learn some tips and tricks that you can use along your own journey. This episode is brought to you by On-Call Capital. On-Call Capital is dedicated to educating CRNAs and other healthcare providers about investing outside of the traditional stock market. On-Call Capital also provides opportunities for you, yes you, to create passive income and generational wealth while also lowering your taxable income through investments in the apartment and alternative investment spaces. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, make sure you do that right now so that you don't miss an episode. Thanks so much for joining me today, and now on with the show. Welcome to Thoughtful Thursdays on the Plan B CRNA podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Jones, and as always, I like to start these shows off with a quote that gets me thinking. Jonathan Swift once said, "The greatest inventions were produced in the times of ignorance, such as the use of the compass, gunpowder, and printing." Now, Jonathan Swift was a great satirist and writer and pamphleteer, and he's best known for writing Gulliver's Travels back in 1726. In his quote, he was speaking more to the idea that we discover more when we're searching for answers. The better the questions we ask, the more we discover, and the more that leads to more questions that need answering, and so on and so forth. This quote is close to the sentiment that I found when I was on Facebook the other day. That post presented the idea that discovery was much easier hundreds of years ago because there was so much more to be discovered. If you're the first one there, they name things after you, right? So, hey, I'm the first person to ever see this creek. I think I'll name it Jones Creek. Now it will always be known that way, and my name will live on long after I'm gone. Of course, not all discoveries and inventions are the same. Many of them require time, effort, and consistency. I mean, if you think calculus is hard, think about the process Isaac Newton must have gone through to create it in the first place. RNA sequencing and genome editing are not for the faint of heart either. Then there are the first one there type of discoveries, such as the discovery of gold in California in 1848. They weren't really there searching for gold. They were actually putting in a sawmill at the time. And the folks at the sawmill were just the first to find and identify their discovery. Leif Erikson purposely charted a course for North America and set foot ashore 500 years before Christopher Columbus. However, Columbus would be the one to mistakenly identify the natives as Indians, a name that would stick around for better or worse for another 500 years. There are also many medical ailments that are named for various physicians who identify and describe them, although they did require a more scientific process than blindly stumbling onto a new continent. And then there are accidental discoveries. These are often found when the discoverers are in pursuit of something entirely different. Some of the most notable, in 1856, a young chemist named William Henry Perkin was looking for a synthetic substitute for quinine. His experiment of mixing aniline with a few other compounds was an absolute failure, but he obtained a dark purple precipitate that he then dipped a piece of silk into and discovered its dyeing properties. Thus, the first synthetic dye, mauveine, was discovered. Percy Spencer was making radar equipment for the Raytheon Company when he noticed a chocolate bar in his pocket melted. He suspected this was caused by the microwaves emitted by the magnetron, a component of the radar. He then performed a test with corn kernels, which burst one by one, and you guessed it, he went on to develop the first microwave oven in 1946. And the list goes on. Penicillin was discovered when a British bacteriologist went on vacation and a moldy fungus invaded one of his petri dishes, and the bacteria didn't grow around it. An American electrical engineer was trying to build an oscillator to measure tachycardia when he noticed adding a resistance of 1 kiloohm rather than 10 made the electrical circuit produce a beating rhythm, which led to the creation of pacemakers. Post-it notes were created when 3M was trying to invent a powerful adhesive, not a weak one. A German physicist was exploring the limits of light production from cathode rays exposed to high electrical discharge. He tried to stop the powerful rays by placing a small lead disc in front of the electrical discharge tube, and voila! two shadows appeared, that of the disc and that of the bones in his hand, making our first X-ray. But what drives us to discovery? The pursuit of answers to great questions, for sure. A desire to contribute to society, certainly. But I've been thinking of another reason lately. When you visit any city, there are roads and buildings named after various people. I've been spending time in Clearwater, Florida, which is a place where I have a lot of family history. Family members that I barely or never knew have roads and historical sites dedicated to their remembrance. I also visited Savannah recently, and that's a city with a rich history. The city is also known for its cemeteries. And it was fascinating to learn more about the Revolutionary and Civil War history of the town. But as I walked along the headstones in Savannah, many of which were no longer legible due to weathering, one thing kept coming to mind: the idea of permanence. All of us know that we will die one day, and many of us want to be remembered. We want to leave a permanent mark on the world. And whether or not our name is remembered often depends upon our contributions or our status in society. Royalty are generally pretty fortunate because they were literally born into wealth and status and have tons of things named after them. This explains why wealthy individuals, though, donate millions of dollars to have their name on the side of a building. If you want to leave some kind of a mark on your favorite university and you have the money, what better way than to have your name etched in stone? That's not to say that it can't have an outsized impact as well, but we all know there can be a certain amount of vanity involved. Those of you who know me know that I enjoy Stoic philosophy, and the thought on this line of thinking is pretty simple. No one gets to enjoy their own legacy. Ultimately, none of us know whether or not our names will be passed down through the centuries because, like those folks in the cemetery, we'll be dead. And we don't have any control over who writes the history books. Alexander the Great, who fought in pointless wars and was ruthless and killed his best friend in a drunken fight, still has cities named after him. Columbus Day was a thing for hundreds of years despite the horrible treatment of natives. Is that really so admirable? Can we ever truly know about the lives of our ancestors, good or bad? Samuel Johnson once said, "I do not wish well to discoveries, for I am always afraid that they will end in conquest and robbery." History is written by the winners after all. But names on buildings and streets can be changed. Memorials can be replaced. Historical perspective changes over time, and we think differently of our past now than those who lived 100 years ago did. So instead of wasting even a second considering how future generations will perceive our societal contributions, it's much more important to focus on just being the best person we can be in the present moment. The distant future is pretty irrelevant, but we can do the right things right now. We can be good and noble and impressive now while it still matters. We can explore, create, invent, and discover because it is our duty to each other to ask questions and solve problems, not because we want to live on forever. The only permanence in this life is impermanence: birth, life, death, and renewal. But what's more important are the lives that we positively impact during that journey. Now, if you'd like to see some more cool discoveries and inventions, I have some links in the show notes for you to check out. And I also linked an article that can help you live a life that will be remembered. Spoiler alert, living a life of authenticity, love, and honor matters. And that's what I've got for you today. If you enjoyed what you heard, make sure you hit subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. I'd love to hear what you thought of the show today. And, hey, if you're interested in passive income opportunities with tax advantage real estate, make sure you visit my website at www.oncallinvestments.com or reach out to me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Until next time, be safe and take care of each other out there. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Plan B CRNA podcast. If you haven't already subscribed and reviewed the show, I'd be honored if you took the extra time. It really helps to expand our reach and get the word out about the show. If you're a CRNA who is interested in sharing your story on our podcast, I'd love to have you. Please email me at bobby@oncallinvestments.com for more information. This episode was brought to you by On-Call Capital. They are dedicated to helping providers like you develop passive income and generational wealth through investments in the apartment and alternative investment spaces. Feel free to check out their website at www.oncallinvestments.com and subscribe to their free educational email series. You can find On-Call Capital on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also check out our YouTube page, where you'll find all of the show episodes along with other educational videos. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.